Welcome to the Alive Better channel. In this video, we will show you that Robert Kiyosaki's book Rich Dad, Poor Dad is not just a financial guide, it is a key to a new way of seeing the world. Its central and most transformative message is that building wealth begins not with a large salary, but with a radical change in mindset. True wealth is not a matter of how much you earn, as countless people with very high salaries live on the edge of their means, always chasing the next paycheck. Wealth, in the author's view, is measured by your financial resilience, by how long you can live comfortably without having to actively work. And to achieve this, you need to make a fundamental transition. Stop being a worker in the service of money and become a strategist who puts money at your service. The book's narrative is built around the two father figures who shaped Kiyosaki's youth. On one side is his biological father, Poor Dad, an extremely educated man with a PhD and a prestigious government position. Despite his intelligence and dedication, Poor Dad was constantly embroiled in financial battles, stuck in a cycle of earning, spending, and paying debts. His advice was traditional: study hard, get a stable and secure job, and retire with a good pension plan. On the other hand, there was Rich Dad, an entrepreneur who did not complete his formal education, but who possessed keen financial intelligence. Rich Dad did not believe in the idea of sticking to a job for security. He believed in building systems and acquiring assets that would give him freedom. The contrast between these two philosophies is not just about money. It is about the values and beliefs that dictate our actions and, consequently, our financial destiny. The first and most impactful principle that Rich Dad teaches is that rich people don't work for money, they make money work for them. The mindset of Poor Dad and most people is programmed for the direct exchange of time for money. You go to work, devote 8, 10, 12 hours of your day, and at the end of the month you receive a salary. The big problem with this equation is the limitation of time. There are only 24 hours in a day, and you can't work indefinitely. If you stop working, your income disappears. The trap here is subtle. The more you earn, the more your expenses tend to increase, creating a treadmill where you run faster and faster without getting anywhere. This is the famous rat race. The way out, according to Rich Dad, is to break this cycle. Instead of asking yourself, how much do I earn per hour? You should start asking yourself, how can I make every dollar I have work for me and generate more dollars? This means shifting the focus from your personal effort to the power of capital and systems. To put this change into practice, you need to master the second lesson, which is the absolute distinction between assets and liabilities. This is undoubtedly the backbone of the entire philosophy of the book. The definition is simple, but its application is revolutionary. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. The mistake most people make is thinking that possessions and material goods are assets. Rich Dad demystifies this in a blunt way. For him, home ownership, which is the ultimate dream of the middle class, is actually a liability. Why? Because it generates a series of constant expenses: mortgage payments, property taxes, condominium fees, maintenance, repairs. It doesn't put money in your pocket. On the contrary, it sucks money out of your pocket in a predictable and incessant way. The rich understand this, and that's why their goal in life is to accumulate real assets. And what are these real assets? They can be categorized in several ways. A business that you own, but that does not require your physical presence to function. It can be a franchise, an online store, or a software company that has a management team. It could be rental properties that, after all expenses are paid, generate a positive monthly cash flow for you. It could be shares in solid companies that pay regular dividends, real estate investment funds, or debt securities. It could also be intellectual property royalties, such as a book that sells continuously, a song that plays on the radio, or a patent that is licensed. The common thread among all of them is that they produce passive income. They work while you sleep, read a book, or play with your children. Wealth is built when the income from your assets exceeds your living expenses. From that point on, you no longer depend on your salary to live. But how do you identify and manage these assets? The answer is the third fundamental lesson: financial literacy. Kiyosaki is emphatic in stating that financial ignorance is the main cause of financial struggle. You cannot build an empire if you cannot read a map. Financial literacy is the ability to understand the language of money, and it materializes in the understanding of two basic statements. The income statement, which shows your sources of income and where your money is flowing in terms of expenses, and the balance sheet, which is a snapshot of your financial situation, listing everything you own, your assets, and everything you owe, your liabilities. Wealth is not in your new car or your high salary, it is in the health of your balance sheet. When the assets column grows consistently and generates cash flow that feeds the income column, you are on the right track. Without this understanding, you will always be navigating blindly, vulnerable to bad decisions, debt, and empty promises. To illustrate how people generate income, Kiyosaki introduces the concept of the cash flow quadrant. This quadrant is divided into 4 categories. In the E quadrant are the employees. They seek security and benefits, trading their time and talent for a predictable salary. In the S quadrant are the self-employed or small business owners. They are the doctors, lawyers, plumbers, and bakery owners. They believe that if they want a job done right, they have to do it themselves. The problem is that if they stop working, their income stops. The big leap happens when you move to the right side of the quadrant. In quadrant D are the business owners. They don't work in their business, they work on their business system. They create or acquire a system that works with other people working for it. And finally, in quadrant I are the investors. They make money work for them in its purest form. The path to wealth, therefore, is not to become a better employee or self-employed person, but to use the income generated in quadrant E or A to build a business in quadrant D, and then use the profits from that business to become an investor in quadrant I. This journey is not without obstacles. The biggest one is fear. The poor dad was ruled by fear. Fear of not having money, fear of taking risks, fear of failure. This fear led him to seek the illusion of security, which he found in a stable job. Rich Dad, however, taught that risk is inherent in every aspect of life, and that the worst trap is precisely the false sense of security. The average person, driven by fear and greed, accepts a pay raise and immediately buys a bigger liability, a new car, sinking deeper into the rat race. The educated investor, on the other hand, sees risk as something to be managed, not avoided. Financial literacy is their shield and their sword. It gives them the confidence to see opportunities where others see only danger, to buy assets in times of crisis when everyone else is selling in panic. And to acquire that courage and knowledge, Kiyosaki offers valuable advice. Work to learn, not just to earn. Especially in the early years of your career, prioritize jobs and experiences that teach you skills that will be valuable on the right side of the quadrant. Learn about sales, because everything in life involves selling an idea or a product. Learn about marketing, accounting, team leadership, and negotiation. See each job not as an end in itself, but as a paid university, where you are equipping yourself with the tools you need to build your own empire in the future. In summary, the journey to becoming wealthy, according to Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is a continuous process of self-development and disciplined action. It's about changing your internal dialogue, replacing phrases like, "I can't afford that," with, "What do I need to do or learn to be able to afford that?" It's about paying yourself first, allocating a fixed portion of all incoming income to the acquisition of assets, even before thinking about paying the bills, thus forcing your financial creativity to find solutions. It's about focusing with tireless determination on everything that can put money in your pocket passively. And above all, it's about investing heavily and continuously in the one thing that no one can take away from you, your financial education. Knowledge is the supreme asset, the seed from which all wealth flourishes. So get started. Start small. Educate yourself, make mistakes, learn from them, and step by step, transform your mindset and your actions. Wealth is not a final destination, but a natural consequence of living and thinking according to the laws of money. The choice, as the two father figures clearly show, is always and intrinsically yours. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe to the channel, activate the bell to receive all notifications, and share this content with your colleagues and friends. Your participation is very important to us. Leave your questions and suggestions for future topics in the comments. Big hug and see you next time. Thanks.